Overshot it. Oh, hello. How strong can spider silk get? So in the last episode of Because Science, we were trying to figure out just how Spider-Man could actually stop a train, like in Spider-Man 2. I said that it wasn't really possible to happen exactly like we see in the film because the spider silk would have to be a lot stronger, stronger than any known material. But I was wrong. Kind of. So, in 2015, researchers did a very interesting experiment. What they did is they put carbon flakes, flakes of carbon nanotubes and graphene, allotropes of carbon, graphene into a spray bottle. And then they started spraying spiders with water that had carbon nanotubes in it. Some of the spiders died, unfortunately. Some of the other spiders, however, incorporated this water into their bodies and then into their silk. So what the silk ended up looking like is something like this. If this is kind of like a woven helical structure here for spider silk, where the graphene ended up, the carbon nanotubes ended up, was right here, right in the middle. And it ended up making the spider silk from these sprayed spiders much, much tougher. Remember we were talking about toughness? That's how much energy per unit volume something like spider silk can take before it fractures. So how much energy you can put into, a third of a cubic meter of spider silk, which is how much spider silk we said Spider-Man would have to use to stop a train. So what did they find after the carbon nanotubes went into the spider silk? Well, they found that the toughness value increased to a crazy 2,000 megajoules per cubic meter. And do you know what's interesting about that number? That is almost exactly the number that I say in the episode the spider silk would need to have in order to stop the train like we see in the film. So when I say there was no material that we know of as human beings that could make the number of web lines in the film work, I was not correct. And I am admitting that to you now. However, I will say that because Spider-Man is using because Spider-Man is using organic spider silk, incorporating graphene and carbon nanotubes by spraying himself down with water isn't quite fitting within the canon. However, this numbers like this can exist for spider silk, which would make it, possible. So score another point for old Raimi. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Because Science Live, the live version of Because Science, where I take all your comments, questions, and corrections, and, weird comments about memes, and I try to address them to the best of my ability. Look, I'm a big old nerd, but I'm not an expert in anything except for rock climbing and Magic the Gathering, and I'm not a working scientist, but I know a little bit about a lot of nerdy, sciencey, pop culture-y things. So if you have a geeky question that you have for a big old nerd like me, let us know in the chat, and hopefully we will get to it. If you start spamming that question, however, I will never, ever get to it. So I have Nate around here somewhere.
What's up, Kyle?
Nothing. Sorry, I gotta fix something here. It's on the microphone.
Fix it, please.
There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, now my Y incision is in the right place. What's our first question?
Our first question is from Spider-Man.
Oh, I'm something of a spider myself.
How tough does your skin have to be to not get hurt by a handgun?
How tough does your skin have to be to not be hurt by a handgun is an interesting question because it kind of gets at the similar toughness value or the idea, mechanical strength of some kind of material. So if you had your skin, and we've done this question before if it seems familiar, but I'll tell you later. So if you had a layer of your skin, how thick and how strong would this skin have to be in order to withstand something like a bullet impact? Well, then you have to start assuming a number of things, like how big the bullet is, and what the surface area, what the cross-sectional area here, this would be the area, what the area here is tracing out, and then how much force the bullet is pressing on the skin with, and how thick your skin is. Your skin is only this is way too big. Nothing on your body is this thick, with 2 C's for cubic centimeters. None of the skin in your body is this thick. I think it's thinnest on your eyelids and thickest on the bottom of your feet, but it's nowhere near this thick. So how thick would it need to be in order to withstand something like a bullet impact? Well, you have to change the material properties of the skin itself to be able to withstand that kind of impact. And you find when you do that kind of calculation using what I think are reasonable numbers, you find that the skin's strength has to start approaching that, or ultimate tensile strength rather, has to approach that of Kevlar. Now, you may recognize Kevlar as the stuff they make bulletproof vests out of. So it kind of makes sense, right? If our skin would have to have the kind of strength to, as Kevlar to withstand bullet impacts, and given that Kevlar isn't all that thick, it means the numbers are in decent agreement. So if you want to know more about that, you can go back to our episode on Luke Cage, and it'll give you a little bit more insight into that. For it to not hurt, ooh, I don't know. That reminds me of the episode that I have to do about John Wick's suit. Because, I mean, this could be as strong as you want to make it, you know, science fiction-y wise, some material, but wow, is that still going to hurt, probably. I mean, even wearing bulletproof vests, I mean, if you've seen the aftermath of that, after taking the impact from a bullet or a handgun or what have you, you can still get extreme bruising. You can break ribs still wearing a bulletproof vest. So this is stopping penetration, but it's not stopping the energy transfer. It still goes somewhere, and that somewhere is into your squishy body. What's next? I was going to say something else, but I forgot about it.
From Alan Forsyth.
Oh, hello.
This is a maintain question.
Oh, it's in its cage right now, but I'm still taining.
How do I make my hair look nice when it's in that awkward growing out phase before it gets long enough to do something with?
You know what I mean? Yeah, no. So everyone goes through this phase, right? Where there's an awkward phase between, oh, it's short enough to do something with, it's not long enough to do something with, and you're like, I don't know, I guess I have bangs for a year, and nobody wants bangs for a year if you don't want bangs. What I did is kind of the, I will call it the, I punted. I punted on that one. I started wearing hats a lot. But the other thing that you can do if you're embarrassed by that kind of look is start experimenting with some kind of product. I know, again, you know, ladies have been doing this forever and they got it down. They maintain all day. But dudes, I know it can be a little bit of a societal thing where like, I don't know if I want to put pomade in my hair and do a little bit of, you know, nice, messy, like bedhead look kind of thing. But, you know, you can get over your own insecurity about that and start messing around with different styles. And you may find that, you know, that transitional period actually has some of the coolest looking stuff on your face. I told a friend of mine to get a haircut and for years. And only once they did so, they're like, wow, that's the best thing I've ever done in my entire life. And it was. I'm not making that up. They looked terrible before. What's next?
From Matterbeam.
Hello, MB.
For the Spider-Man video,
yes.
What if you continuously shot out and broke many spider silk cables? Kind of like how sticky tape peels off at a microscopic level.
Sure. Okay, yeah, so I think a lot of people commented something like this on the video itself, but I think what maybe you're asking is, in general, what would be the best way to decelerate a train if you had some super strong sticky fiber like a spider silk? And I think what I would do is exactly what you're suggesting. So if you had the train here and it was going forward with some velocity, I wouldn't put all of my strands at one point all at once. This is going to, as you see in the film, which was, you know, they kind of got this right. What you see in the film, this puts incredible stress and forces on the front of the train. It starts to crumple the front of the train. It would probably rip Tobey Maguire in half. Yeah, it would probably rip We'll get into that in a future thing. It would probably rip Tobey Maguire in half. So I would do if I was Spider-Man, and what Spider-Man does with a number of things in the new Spider-Man game, if you recognize this character, and it's a fantastic, oh, I love that game. It's the best movement in gaming is in the new Spider-Man game. Quote me. What I would do if the train was moving is what you're suggesting, MB, which is, as it's moving along, shoot distributed lines. So not all at once here, but as a train's passing one point, shoot one. As a train's passing another point, shoot another along the line of the train, such that these lines may end up breaking here, but they will absorb some energy as they go along, and that will act to decelerate the train slowly. As we said in the video, if you put all of these lines at one point and assume that the spider silk can absorb all that energy and then come to a stop within the normal extensibility of spider silk, which isn't as far as it looks like they extend in the movie, then these people will be pulling like 20, 30 Gs, something like that. Not immediately deadly, but not comfortable either. If you instead, hit the back of the train with 2 web lines, attach them, and then let them break to absorb the max amount of energy and then break, and then shoot at the middle, shoot at the front, and then keep shooting as they break, as they go down the line. You will incrementally decrease that kinetic energy and slow the train down in a much more comfortable manner. I think that's a great idea. Hey, are you a superhero? What's next?
From CamCam66. Could someone really read the mind of another individual?
So, before I got into more general science communication kind of stuff, I cut my teeth in science communication doing a lot of paranormal, supernatural, educational resource kind of stuff. And my opinion on this, which I think is supported by fact, is that I don't think anyone can read anyone's mind, period. There is no regime of energy in the universe that we think that this kind of power might be residing. And when I say that, I mean that we have explored energy levels, on some of the smallest scales in the universe, also on some of the largest scales in the universe, things like what the Large Hadron Collider is trying to do. And in all of that investigation, we haven't found any fundamental forces or interactions that we seem to have been missing, something like the Force or something like telekinesis or telepathy could exist. We do not see any way for that kind of interaction to happen. It would be very odd if only a few people who happen to make thousands and thousands of dollars on phone lines, it would be very weird if just those people had access to this thing that nothing can detect, nothing can measure, we can't investigate it at all. That's very convenient. So the more rational, I think, more logical answer is that there are techniques to interpret human behavior and also seed human behavior such that you can interpret someone's actions and feelings in a way that feels like mind reading. So think about how you go through your day. Most of what you do is interacting on a very general level, right? Oh, hello, nice to see you. Yeah, I'll take a venti or whatever. Most of it is that. Now, if someone came along with techniques that they've honed for years to try to get you to give more information than you usually do, and someone who has trained for years to look for the little ticks, the little cues that would give away when you're saying something truthful or not, or you have information, that kind of thing, it is totally reasonable that when someone says, well, it sounds like you went through, a terrible loss recently, and, someone with the letter G. I mean, this is more medium mind reading kind of stuff. But someone with the letter G is saying, don't worry about the money. That can seem like it's reading your mind or connecting with some otherworldly thing, but the more reasonable answer, I think, is that you can really study human behavior and kind of hack it and make it seem like it's amazing, like Spider-Man, but not really. And for mind reading specifically, I mean, think of all the rules that mind readers have to put in place. If you go to a mind reader or something on the corner of your street or wherever with a big neon sign, think of all the things that they have to put in place to make mind reading work. They have to see you face to face. They have to touch your hands. They have to ask you very personal questions. You have to answer those questions. If mind reading was a thing, a real thing that we could study and measure, they should be able to read your mind if you were locked in a safe and they didn't know if you were in that safe or not. That would be a double-blind test. There might be someone in that safe or not. What are they thinking? I'm going to guess that more often than not, they have no idea. How interesting. So in my opinion, telepathy, mind reading, they are very, very interesting exploitations of human behavior and human thinking, but they are not anything otherworldly or any superpowers or any mystical paranormal thing going on. It could be. But as far as we know, we haven't seen any really good evidence for that. We have more evidence for how spider webs work. What's next?
From Archangel Caesar.
Archangel Caesar? Yeah. Wow, this is after he got stabbed.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
if you could stand on a sun without dying.
What?
If you could stand on a sun without dying.
No, I heard you. I'm just reacting.
How much heavier would you be?
If you could... So, I don't know this value off the top of my head, but if you evaluated the radius of the sun with the mass of the sun, you could get the surface gravity of the sun. So it's kind of like calculating the surface gravity of Jupiter, right? You can't really stand on the surface of Jup because it's a gas giant. It doesn't really have a surface when you see beautiful pictures of Jupiter or what have you. You can't stand on that surface. It's not solid. It's just gas and maybe a rocky, metal-y core at the center. We don't know. The sun is the same way. It's just a big ball of plasma. So you can't really stand on it in the same way as you say, but you can calculate its surface gravity. Again, off the top of my head, I think it's like 20 Gs? 20 to 100? The sun is huge. 1 million Earths could fit inside it, and it's very, very heavy. So the surface gravity of the sun would be substantial. I just don't know it off the top of my head. If you know it in chat, or you can just look it up on Wikipedia real quick, put it in there and help answer whoever asked that question. Sorry, I forgot. What's next?
From LBOE.
If someone puts it in the chat, Nate, tell me.
Okay.
Thank you.
From LBOE.
Hello.
Is there any possibility of us seeing real-life Doc Ock-like robot arm tech? Would the brain be able to receive that?
Yeah, so Doc Ock has fantastical prosthetic limbs that are neurally interfaced. So I said that with a Elon Musk accent. It says neurally interfaced. But they connect with the brain such that you don't have to mechanically move something with like your hand to move the arm. They just move based on neural impulse, and that's amazing. So 2 parts of this question. Can Doc Ock's arms exist? Well, I think if he actually had those arms, they'd be so heavy, and they wouldn't be extensible in the same way that spider silk is. They can stretch all over the place. And they'd be very heavy and unwieldy, and there's no way they could be that maneuverable with technology that we have right now, or at least that quick. But there are brain-machine interfaces that have given people prosthetic limbs like Doc Ock's arm. You can connect machines and things that read impulses from the brain to people's brains, and they can use just their thoughts to control a separate arm. And if you just mounted that device on their back, it would kind of look Doc Ockian, which is trademark. So in theory, something like Doc Ock's arms is possible. You can interface with the brain and use that to control a machine that's not a part of your body. But specifically, his arms are wildly advanced, probably not practically wearable, too heavy, too quick, as far as I know. But it would be an advancement in that kind of technology that is decades and decades away, in my estimation. Again, not an expert, but the underlying theory is definitely sound, and it could happen. Think of how that could revolutionize the lives of amputees or someone with a terrible injury. This could give you part of your life back, and it would be amazing, and people are looking into it right now. Open Bionics, it's not quite the same brain-machine interface thing, but reading nerve impulses from the arm or wherever the prosthetic is attaching to get pretty dang functional prosthetic limbs, like Deus Ex kind of limbs. We are doing really cool, really fascinating work, but Doc Ock is a little bit more advanced, a lot of bit more advanced than that. What's next?
For the sun,
yes.
Everybody's posting some numbers. 28 Gs.
20?
28.
I'd say that's between 20 and 100. Woo! Did it. It was around 20. That's why I started with 20. But yeah, surface gravity of the sun, around 28 Gs. That's because of the sun is super, super heavy, but it's also enormous. So it's not like, 1,000 Gs or something like that, because it depends on the radius of the thing. But 28 Gs, if you could stand on the surface of something that had 28 Gs, you would die in moments. 28 Gs of an impact wouldn't immediately kill you, or it might not immediately, not like 100 Gs would, but just standing underneath the oppressive pull of a gravity that made you feel 28 times heavier. If the average person is 60 kilograms and it's around 30 Gs, that is a lot of added, weight. So, yeah, you'd die. Which is the same conclusion we came to in the Dragon Ball Z gravity training episode, that extended periods under heavy G's will lead to your demise, but not the immediate. What's next?
From Mr. Halt.
Hello, mister.
Do you think space-based solar power, beaming it down to Earth, is viable?
Beaming it down to Earth. I've never heard that before. I mean, there are the Dyson sphere like concepts, right, where you have a radiant source of energy like the sun, and you put some structure all the way around it to better capture the radiant energy and then turn that into some kind of electricity or what have you. But I haven't heard of beaming that energy directly back down to Earth through the atmosphere without any disturbances or anything like that. I haven't heard of that kind of technology, although I know that getting energy just in space is very good for stuff in space. I mean, that's how the International Space Station runs. It's not how all of our probes run. Sometimes they have nuclear power sources that let them run for long, long periods of time with more electricity than just tinier solar panels would give them. But electricity in space is a great idea. I just don't know if you can beam it back to Earth. Maybe I'm missing some kind of technology that's very obvious or some kind of innovation, but I don't know it off the top of my head. What's next?
From Jay Markwith.
James? Okay.
What is more likely to be real, Bigfoot or Loch Ness Monster?
Man, a lot of. I think I started doing I started talking about telepathy and stuff, and people are just starting to put paranormal crap in there. Sorry. What's more likely to be real, Loch Ness or Bigfoot? Interesting question. I would say that it's more. This is going to get me in trouble if you take me out of context. But it's more likely that Bigfoot exists than it is Loch Ness existing, because think of the relative things going on. So Loch Ness is one body of water that is very deep, but it's one body of water that's supposed to contain at least one giant plesiosaur-looking thing. For how long people have held this myth as this cryptid in Loch Ness, for how long this has been a thing, and for how many people have gone out trying to look for it, it's very unlikely that everyone has missed it everyone has always missed it. And I don't put any veracity in any of the pictures or the videos. Those are easily explained away, and some have been easily explained away. Especially for an animal that has to surface to breathe, supposedly. It's very unlikely that everyone missed that for this long. There are better explanations, even if it's possible. For Bigfoot, because the animal is supposed to exist on almost every continent and is the size of us and lives in the forest, a much larger area, a much smaller organism in a much larger area, relatively speaking, it would be harder to find Bigfoot than it would be harder to find the Loch Ness Monster. Although, there have been so many expeditions into where Bigfoot is supposed to be, so many Finding Bigfoot episodes where they never find Bigfoot. There have been so many expeditions into where Bigfoot is supposed to be that at this point it is extremely unlikely that it exists. I mean, all the evidence that we've ever gotten can be explained pretty easily by suits, or, oh, that hair you found is actually your dog's. This thing happened. So there are better explanations for both of these cryptids. They are very interesting. They're fun. I would love if they exist. It's just we have no good evidence that they exist. And that's that. I mean, sometimes this kind of outlook can seem like it's, poo-pooing this kind of stuff. And no, I mean, keep an open mind, but not so open that your brain falls out. What is more likely, even though it is fun and whimsical and interesting to think about? I mean, we found a giant squid. We have footage of giant squid, an enormous animal in a... Giant squid might be as big as a plesiosaur. Loch Ness is just in Loch Ness. One body of water. Just one body of water. Giant squid are in the whole ocean. And we know less about the bottom of the ocean, or the depths of the ocean, than we do about the surface of the moon. But we found it because we had some evidence, some shreds. We knew where to look. We did many, many expeditions over the years. We found a giant squid. If we can find a giant squid, we should have been able to find Bigfoot. And we haven't. I think we have time for one more question that I rant about.
Yeah. From Manuel G. Rodriguez.
Oh, hello.
Would you consider remaking a video if new evidence shows that it counters what you said?
Absolutely. I would, we haven't had a video so far that has been so flat out wrong that I thought we'd have to take it down. But I absolutely would. It's the reason why we make footnotes, right? I mean, I do read almost every single comment within the first 5 to 6 to 7 hours of a video going up, and I will take those comments very seriously. And if something is pointed out to me, it's like, wow, you're totally wrong, you got the completely wrong conclusion, your math was way off, something like that, I would take the video down, most likely, or publish another one like you're saying. But in theory, yes, I would absolutely do that, because the point here is education. And if I'm just putting numbers out there and equations you don't understand that are possibly wrong from the wrong perspective, then no one, including me, no one is actually learning anything. And I think that's a perversion of science communication. If you just put, newtons out there and just say, oh, he punches with 1,000,000 newtons. Why? Because science, like that wouldn't do it for me. We really have to go through this thing, all these episodes, step by step, and I want to learn these things with you. And if I get it wrong, I will admit it, I promise. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Because Science Live. Wow, that was a good one. I enjoyed the questions this week, so thank you so much. Next week, we have a new vlog. We have a new behind-the-scenes episode of the Science Mortal Kombat about ice axes and how hard it is to make a dang ice out of axe. Flip that, reverse it. Strike that. Have a wonderful weekend. We have those videos. We also have a new live stream, new episode. So until then, have a good one. And be nice to each other, because sometimes I'll mess up what I say. And this is all we got.